The Black Album has finally come out, and I was hoping for a heavier rock sound like how we heard on the White Album. Did Weezer actually deliver on it after the disaster that was Pacific Daydream? Let's find out.
Can't knock the hustle. Can't knock the hustle.
Can't Knock the Hustle is a great opener to the album. It has this disco funk about it that I really get into. It also marks the first time that lead singer Rivers Cuomo has swore on a song in a while. Some say it's cringy. I say it's kind of setting the tone for the record. The lyrics can be pretty silly at times. A lot of it may just seem like typical Rivers self-deprecation, but it actually kind of tells a story about how Rivers puts a lot of effort into his albums, but nobody really respects it. It's a little mainstream, sure, but it gives Weezer that much needed edge. I give this song an 8 out of 10.
Die, die, you zombie bastards. We know what you want.
When this track first released, I wasn't really convinced. Compared to Can't Knock the Hustle, this song sounds a lot more mainstream in its sound. But once I started listening to the song more and more, I started to love it. The lyrics at first seem a little bit simplistic, but it may be deeper if you actually look into it. People have actually been theorizing that it's about Rivers being fed up with Weezer fans, and the zombie bastards are the Weezer fans that he wants to die. This has a great instrumental, a pretty decent groove, and it's just an overall good song. I give this song a 7 out of 10.
I'm high as a kite. Don't you think I know what I'm worth? Flying like a beautiful bird.
If the Blue Album had a bonus track, it would be this track, High as a Kite. The song is great. It has that happy-go-lucky feel, at least in the first verse. In the second verse, in the bridge, it becomes extremely more depressing, talking about how Rivers wants to disappear from reality altogether. During the bridge, the song becomes much more dark, with the guitars and Rivers' voice becoming distorted. It's the most Pinkerton sounding thing on this entire record, except for one later, but we'll get to that. Anyways, I heavily enjoyed this track. I give this track a 9 out of 10.
This girl I like. I'm talking about this girl I like, but I'm so lonely.
Living in LA is the first mainstream track on the album. It's okay. Let's talk about the positives first. The instrumentation's pretty interesting and the lyrics are alright, but it gets your typical Rivers wants girl situation. But this is just basic mainstream Weezer. It reminds me of Pacific Daydream, and that's not a good thing in the slightest. When I'd rather listen to the Green Album, you know you got a problem on your hands. It's not the worst track on the album, but it's not any good. I give this one a 5 out of 10.
She cut me like a piece of cake. She cut me like a piece of cake. Old and dry, a man insane. She ate me up.
Piece of Cake is the first actual song on the album that I didn't hear before the album came out, excluding the last track. Again, we'll get to that. And yeah, I'm sorry. It's just an awful track. Lyrically, it's just about Rivers wanting a girl, which was the concept of the last track, and Lord knows how many other Weezer tracks over the years. He made a whole album based on it. Come on! If there's a compliment I can give it, I guess the chorus is kind of edgy. She's cutting me like a piece of cake. But other than that, it might get some radio airplay, but that's it. I didn't enjoy this one at all. I give this song a 3 out of 10.
Here we go. Don't get mad at me. I'm just being honest. I should have lied.
The next track, I'm Just Being Honest, is a huge improvement over Piece of Cake. It's just a song about Rivers being honest about whatever the person is. A person who gives him a CD whose band is obviously absolute and a girl who cut her hair but he doesn't like it, and so now he has to sleep on the floor. Romance at its finest. If there's one criticism I can give it, the instrumental is pretty generic, but luckily the chorus and the verses save it for me. I give this track a 7 out of 10. can I say about Too Many Thoughts in My Head? This song is great. It starts off with this little funky guitar riff that heavily reminds me of the Beach Boys. Lyrically, it just deals with Rivers being stressed by all the thoughts in his head. My favorite line in this track has to be where I'm so high on cookies, because I mean, like, it reminds me of El Scorcho from Pinkerton. Just such a far out line that you can't even really take it too seriously because it's not meant to be. With the mix of an amazing instrumental, funny lyrics, and a great funk that can't be matched, I'm gonna do it. This song gets a 10 out of 10 from me. This is the best song on the record. You cannot debate with me on it. You can't.
He's the prince who wanted everything. He's the prince.
The Prince Who Wanted Everything is a great track, mostly because it's dedicated to Prince. Well, not on purpose, not all of it's dedicated, but it's a good tribute to one of the greatest entertainers in the past century. It also works as a standalone track because it's really just Rivers singing you a story, and frankly, I'm down with that any day. The main riff is great. It kind of reminds me of a nursery rhyme or a kid's song, but it's in a good way. My only problem with this track is the hook. It reminds me of Piece of Cake from earlier, and that's not good. But other than that, it's a great track and a great tribute to Prince. I give this song an 8 out of 10.
Put on your red beret, baby, moonwalk, make it across the room. Do something kinda unique to me.
God, man, they keep coming. Byzantine is another amazing track. It's kind of a softer track, and it's a sound that I've never heard Weezer try before, but they pull it off really, really good. According to Rivers, he wanted to make a 60s style French pop track with some drum machines in the background, and I can say that he did pretty good in that aspect. Weezer really nailed the 60s sound. This sounds like a track straight out of the Beatles. It's just with the harmonies and the instrumental, besides the swearing of course. It's a great track that would totally fit in with the Beatles discography, and it's just a very funky thing to listen to, and the chorus is nice. It's one of the most positive Weezer songs I've actually ever heard before, which is weird for this band. I give this song a score of 9 out of 10.
California snow, never let me go. California snow, never.
Oh boy, talk about 180. And I don't mean with the sound of the tracks either. When I first listened to California Snow, I'll be completely honest, it was not my thing. I couldn't get into it. I was wondering why this was such a popular song for so many Weezer fans. But now I kind of figure out why. It's actually a very dark song. For those who don't know, California Snow is slang for cocaine, which means that in the song he's talking about how he never wants to stop taking the cocaine because it cheers him up so much. That's Pinkerton levels of depression right there, Rivers. I'll be honest, I like the instrumental. Sure, it's less of a Weezer song and more of a beat featuring Rivers Cuomo, but I don't mind the beat either. I think it's really good. I never thought I'd do this when I first listened to the track, but I give this track an 8 out of 10. I know. That was my review of Weezer's Black album, and for every album I'm going to be rating it out of 100, so count it up, and Weezer gets a total score of 74 out of 100. That's a pretty good score if you ask me. This album isn't perfect, obviously. Piece of Cake is the worst song ever. But I do have a lot of things that I like about it. It's good, it's catchy, it can be edgy at times. If there's one criticism I can give it though, I wish it was as edgy and as dark as Rivers was hyping it up to be. He was hyping it up as if this was the most experimental Weezer has ever been. And it really wasn't. I think that Maladroit and Pinkerton are much better examples of Weezer taking a risk with their sound instead of the Black album. It's a good album, but it's not their best by a long shot. Having swear words, sure, it doesn't get you as much radio airplay, but it doesn't mean you're an edgelord. Anyway, I really enjoyed this album, and I feel like people are really starting to hate on it much more than it should be. Sure, it has more mainstream sound to it, but if the mainstream sound is good, what's the point in hating it just because it's mainstream? Anyways, I'm Weezer Zagranis. Thank you for watching.
It's the family. All you ever have to do is sing. Never go against the family. When the root is strong, the fruit is sweet. Did you ever get to be a child? Shake it up until